Hello and welcome. If this is your first time here with us, my name is Keith Thompson. I'm the preacher with the Armadale Church of Christ here in Perth, Western Australia. Now, we in the Lord's Church welcome questions and comments and visits. So if you're interested, why don't you send us a message in, you can look down in the contact section below, or if you enjoy this video, subscribe and like. Now, we're starting today an exciting new series. We're very happy to be starting to look at the Sermon on the Mount. Of course, this is found in the Gospel of Matthew, and we'll be studying over the next few weeks, Matthew 5, 6, and 7. Now, in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus lays down his inaugural address. This is such an important passage, such an important sermon, and teachings from that are things that we can, from which we can gain a great deal of knowledge. Now, when Jesus came to the earth, he came in a way that people didn't expect him to. You know, the Jews were looking for the Messiah, the Christ. They were looking for the Son of David. They were looking for a king to come. And they expected Jesus to come on a flashing white horse with a sword and to throw out the Roman Empire and form a kingdom here on earth. But Jesus came with an altogether different mission and a different message. And in this message, he shows how he's turning the world upside down. And as we go through the study, we can see this teaching that he has. When we start in our study, we see the first 12 verses are what is known as the Beatitudes. And these are well known. Verse 3 says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the gentle, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied." The world in Jesus' day was just like it is today. The poor in spirit, they don't inherit anything here on earth. Those who are Gentiles certainly don't inherit the earth. The world tells us you've got to be strong, you've got to be fighters, you've got to stick up for yourself. But Jesus isn't talking about life on this earth. He's saying this is how we are to act now to inherit the kingdom of earth. He turns it around. And we've got to follow him and his example and his life. In Matthew 7, verse 17, it says, "Do not think that I came to abolish the law of the prophets. I did not come to abolish, but to fulfill." A lot of people are confused about the difference between the Old and the New Testament. The reason it's called the Old Testament is because it's past. Jesus fulfilled that. We are now living under the New Testament, the New Covenant, in which Jesus is the King, and we listen to him. We don't follow the teachings of Moses. We don't follow the commands of the Old Testament, because Jesus has fulfilled it. Then Jesus talked about true righteousness in verse 21. "For I say to you, unless your righteousness surpasses that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven." So the righteousness that was seen in Jesus' day was an outward righteousness. We have to be seeking for an inward righteousness. And then he turns the Old Testament fully on its head. Notice, verse 21, "You've heard that the ancients were told, 'You shall not commit murder, and whoever commits murder shall be liable to the court.' But I say to you, everyone who is angry with his brother shall be guilty before the court. And whoever says to his brother, 'You good for nothing,' shall be guilty before the Supreme Court. And whoever says, 'You fool,' shall be guilty enough to go into the fiery hell." So you see, the Jews were very careful to stick to the letter of the law. Okay, well, I didn't commit murder, but you hate your brothers. You fight with your brothers. Well, I don't commit murder. And Jesus says, no. It's how you feel inside that counts. In chapter 6, he says in verse 1, "Beware of practicing your righteousness before men to be noticed by them. Otherwise you have no reward with your Father who is in heaven." You see, you can see the motives that people had there. They were looking for recognition here on earth. But Jesus says, no, don't do those. those things to be recognized on earth. When you give, be secret. When you pray, go in private and pray, because it's your Father that you're serving, not the people on this earth. Then in verse 19 of chapter 6, do not store up for yourself treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and when thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroy, where the thieves do not break and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Such a key passage. In chapter 7, verses 13 and 14, he says, enter through the narrow gate, for the way is wide, and for the gate is wide, and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and many are those who enter through it. For the gate is small, and the way is narrow that leads to life, and there are few who find it. He goes on to talk about how we should walk on that narrow road in verse 21. Where he says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of the Father who is in heaven. It's not what we say that matters, it's what we do. We've got to be loving, we've got to be obedient, and we've got to be respectful to God and put him first. Then the whole sermon finishes with this parable about two men. Verse 26, everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act upon them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. That house fell down and collapsed because it did not have a strong foundation. The one who was wise, he built his house on the rock. This is the man who hears the words of Jesus and acts on them. Well, this is a very quick summary of the Sermon of the Mount. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to invite you to come back each week as we continue in depth into this great sermon. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm going to love this study, and I hope you do. So, come back next week and join us as we continue on the study. Thank you, and we hope to see you next time. Goodbye.